Hey guys, shooting for fun here. Hey, we're gonna finish up on our uh, continuation of our series here of making our gun holster. And if you notice here, what we've done is we've got our we cut out our pattern, we traced it, cut out our pattern. We did our little border going around it. We pre-punched our holes for our stitching. This is for our back panel here. And what we done last is we took and we wet our leather down. Once we got our design embossed in there and everything, we wet our design down. We tied it off a little bit here, and here, just to keep it from coming apart there. And we put our gun in here and we molded it. And if you can see there, we've got kind of a molded outline here for our gun. And we let it dry inside of that to where it would, contour fit around that to where when we stitch it up, our gun should fit in there perfect, okay? Now our next step is to stain it. And what we're going to use is we're going to be using a little, they call these a wool dauber. And it's to apply the stain onto it. We're going to be using what they call a range tan. Now I've got a couple of other holsters here that I've already made. This one is a cyan tan, a little lighter tan color. This one is the brown, dark brown there. Gives you a more like a chocolate color there. The range tan is kind of a mix between these two. We'll turn our light on there a little bit where you can see these here. And basically what we're going to be going into is something kind of in between these as well. Okay? So, and also the reason why we did our contouring before we stain is because once you stain, it does wet the leather and it will contour a little bit from that, but we don't want that to be our contour point to put our gun in, because you don't want stain getting all over your gun and stuff, okay? Now, you just got to be careful with this because of the pigment of the leather. It does absorb differently, so that you may get a lighter spot and a darker spot. And what you can do is you can go over it a second time. I have to get some knife here to open this up. Okay. So you may have to go over one spot again to darken it up, and then go over the whole thing again to get it darker, because each time you apply it, it is going to get a little bit darker. But then once we apply the sheen, it will lighten it up somewhat. Okay? So here we go. We're going to do our little back piece here first. You can see we're covering it over good there. You can see it soaks in pretty quick. See, that top part's already actually dried off here, and then we're going to hit our edges. Okay. I don't know, this color, once we get it darkened in, it may be lighter than the other color there. But like I said, once you apply a couple of coats here, it will get a little bit darker. Okay, and then you can also do, some people don't, but if you want to, you can do the back side of it. Okay, then we'll go around the edges again. And you can go over the whole thing again here if you want. And there we go. We'll let that dry good. And we're going to start on our holster here. Now you can do the front, the back. You can do whichever way you want to do it here. Something you want to go to, because when you stamp these in, it goes in a little harder. So you want to put that in. Make sure it does get into all the little cracks there. Alright, here we go. Okay. And as you can see, we're getting a pretty good coverage on there. Okay. Okay. And like I said, this is a pretty good amount of leather there to cover, so you want to make sure that you do go over it a couple of times there to get all your edges covered. And like I said, this part you just kind of gotta put on a good amount of it there. And once you get this a little larger of an area to cover there, it's a little harder to cover it all at the same time. Because it does start soaking in the moment you apply it. Okay. Then what you can do is you can wait a few minutes there, and if you notice here, you got some lighter spots, some darker spots, and that'll all kind of fade in as you go over it again. Some of this you want to try to move kind of fast because you want it to all get wet together and soak in at the same time there. And you just keep going till you get your consistency right there that you want for your color. Okay. And we'll just continue on going until we get our color that we want. Like I said, this will smooth out a little bit once we apply our sheen to it. Like I said, you could go one way and go a different way just to where it absorbs in different. Okay. Alright, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to what I like to do is I like to go around my outside edges here. As you can see, we're just going to cover our lines here. And what I do just to help, I'm sorry if I'm kind of moving this out of your way there, it's kind of viewing area there, it's kind of hard to hold it and do it at some spots there. What I will do, because just where you go and where you stitch around, where the stitches come together, I just go around an outline here. Because it will help the stitches a little bit there to stay solid, and then where our part's going to overlap here a little bit, where our back panel is going to show a little bit. We want to just color that in there a little bit more. Okay, so now when our gun is there, you can see the inside part there is tanned as well. Okay. You could actually do the whole interior if you wanted to. It doesn't hurt it at all. Like I said, if that's something that you would want to do, you could do with that as well. We're just going to do a little bit of an outline here just to make sure that our edges are coated good. Alright, we're gonna, this does get a little fuzzy on it here, so And like I said, if you use, the reason why we use the lighter stain is because we put several coats here, which does darken it up somewhat. Okay. And if you use too dark of a stain, it ends up being a black color, and you lose some of your detail there. Okay. So you just want to make sure that you spread it around good. You get your good coloring on there the way you want. And like I said, a lot of this you can go over a couple of different times there to you're satisfied with your coloring and your grouping there, and you alrighty. Now the back side, you notice some of that bottom part here, and like I said, you can keep going over that until you get your smoothed out color there. Backside doesn't really matter as much. It's not going to get viewed because it's going to be up against your body with your belt hoop there. Okay. Okay. Now since our leather is wet again, because of the stain that's going to soak in, we want to make sure that we get our thing here where we wanted it, get it punched down there. We want to maintain our contouring. And like I said, some of this stuff is available in some of your local craft stores. They do carry a little bit of the leather there and some of the supplies and things like that. But as far as I know, you can get like Hobby Lobby, Joann's or Michael's, some of the fabric places, things like that. They carry some of the, oops, losing my knife here. Some of the things for the leather projects, but they don't carry it to the extent that Tandy Leather does. And like I said, I'm not affiliated with Tandy Leather. I don't mean to to do a serious plug for them, but it is the only place that I know of that you can get basically all this kind of leather supplying. And if you buy the kits, and if you really wanted to get started in this, I got started in. I used to do keychains and belts, change purses, that kind of thing. I really got into the keychain thing of it, and I've made belts, and then started getting my guns. Of course, I've made my holsters here, and if you notice here, you got your little snaps here where you can hold your gun in there, and this part snaps loose. You can clip it over your belt, and that may be something that we might want to add maybe after our gun gets our holster gets completed. That's something that you can add in at a later time there. All you do is you cut a little strap out, you put your rivet in here or there, and you can just make your little strap to come over it, or from the back side over this way, whichever way is going to hold the gun in best. But that's going to be our staining process here. We're just going to let that dry and set up good. And when we come back, we're going to do our stitching. We're going to stitch it before we do our sheen, because once we put the stitching in and the sheening on, it does get kind of hard to get the needle in and out of these things here. So just for the ease of that, we're going to do our stitching first, and then the sheening can go on at the end. Like I said, if this overlaps a little bit and you got gaps here and there where it overlaps the leather there a little bit, once we get it stitched up, we can take our scissors there and we can trim that up to make our points nice and smooth there. And then all you got to do is take your stain. You can touch your stain back up on your edges there before you put your sheen on. And the leather stain is similar to the wood stain. It soaks into the leather and stains it. The sheen that we're talking about is basically a varnish, as it would be for wood. It puts the, if you notice here, these things are real kind of shiny. They have like a little gloss finish to them there a little bit. That's the sheen. And it also helps to harden up the leather as well. And it protects the stain and things. If it gets wet, it's not going to hurt it. Okay. So when we get done, our next series here is going to be a stitching process where we're going to stitch up our lace here, and then we'll be ready to do our final touch-ups and do our sheen process. Alright folks, sorry we've had to kind of split this up into so many videos there, but we didn't want to take up too much time on each video to make it so long that you kind of lose interest, so we wanted to kind of cut and paste there to get these together into a format to where they're not so long and drawn out. Alright, stay tuned for our next part there. I'm shooting for fun. Thanks for watching, folks.